This is Ivan Knapp from Knapp's News. I have with me today Nancy Dragani. Nancy is the State Emergency Management Director, and she's here in Mercer County. Would you tell our viewers a little bit about your background, first of all?
Sure. Well, I've been with the State Emergency Management Agency since 1994. Started out as a public information officer, and then over the course of 10 or so years, moved around as division director of different divisions within the agency, and then in 2005, just after, in the middle, in fact, of the ice storms, took over as the director of the agency. So I've been in the field in Ohio emergency management and emergency management in general for several years now.
You know, maybe this question is too open-ended, but Nancy, as we think about you and your position, how was it affected with the 9/11 situation?
Well, it's actually not open-ended. I would say that it had a significant effect on emergency management in general and the entire profession. Prior to 9/11, there was some concern and planning around terrorist activities, primarily fostered by the first World Trade Center attack and then the Murrah building attack in Oklahoma City. So clearly we were at risk as a nation of terrorist attacks. But then, of course, 9/11 changed the whole paradigm, and we saw that pendulum shift dramatically from a focus on primarily natural hazards to a focus on terrorism activities and terrorism threats and risks, almost to the exclusion of natural. And then we saw Katrina, and the pendulum began to shift back again, and now I think we're kind of finding our equilibrium, recognizing that really every part of our country is at risk of some type of terrorist activity, but we can't ignore those risks that are present, that are there, that are caused by Mother Nature, that we know will happen sooner or later.
You know, we're happy to have you here today in Mercer County. I think the viewers would be interested in what brought you to Mercer County today.
I am convinced that it's important for us as we build partnerships at the state, local, federal level to spend time together. So really my trip here to Mercer County was simply to take the opportunity to spend some time with Mercer County Emergency Management Director Wanda Dickey as well as her staff and just talk. What's happening here in Mercer County? What are the issues they're facing both inside the county as well as things like the border exercise that's coming up? How can we be at the state level more responsive to Mercer County? Because in that partnership, if we don't talk, we'll never move forward.
Well, as I said, we're very happy to have you here today. You know, as you think about this rural audience here, what kind of advice would you give to us in terms of preparation and being well aware of the world events?
Well, I think there are two pieces of advice, or three pieces of advice that I would have. First, understand and know the risks that face this part of Ohio. There may not be a huge risk of a high-rise attack, but there are risks anytime we have, I believe, people who are responsible for growing the food that our nation eats. That's something that I think we need to work harder on in our nation as we look at preparedness for terrorist attacks. I think there clearly are risks of natural hazards here in Mercer County, and people need to understand what those risks are and how they can protect themselves. And then the last thing that I would say, and I think in this part of Ohio, this is an assumption that people have more than necessarily something they need to do, but we need to take responsibility for our own protection, the protection of our family, the preparedness of our family, and the preparedness of our friends and neighbors, because I'm convinced that until we take responsibility at the very basic individual level, we're not going to be able to take responsibility at the state or the federal level.
Thank you for the time for the interview, and we're glad to have you here again.